In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His last and beloved Messenger Muhammad, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. The title of this presentation is Explanation of verse 14 of chapter 55 of the Quran, and the Quran is the last revelation of Allah God to people. Now, as you can see here, brothers and sisters, I prepared a flow diagram which explains the knowledge that Allah God Almighty wants to teach us from this verse. And the verse is, this is the translation, verse 14 of chapter 55 of the Quran. Allah God has created humans from clay like that of pottery. So if we ponder upon this verse, because the key to understand the Quran is to ponder upon the verses and not just merely reciting them. So here Allah God Almighty is telling us that the material He used to create our body is clay, like that used in pottery, meaning exactly like the material used to make clay pots, that the material that people know, clay, not something strange, like a strange material. So if a person ponders upon this Quranic verse, he or she would conclude the following. Now, if we look at this, if we think about the human body, we see that bone is the framework that carries the weight of various body tissue. And Allah God states that He has created this framework from a ceramic material. So if we concentrate here on bone, bone is the framework that carries the weight. It's like a structure, it's a load-bearing structure. And the material that Allah used to create this structure is a ceramic material. So we learn from this, and Allah is teaching us that the optimal material, the best material for the construction of a framework that carries loads is a ceramic material. And the reason for this is that the ceramic material has so many advantages over other materials, such as lightweight. And when a material has a light weight, it minimizes self-loading, which means that the weight of the material puts stress on the structure without any kind of external loading. So when a material is light, this minimizes self-loading. So Allah Almighty could have created our bones from steel, and it would have carried the weight, but it would be so heavy, and as thus you would have so much pain in movement. So this one aspect of the mercy of Allah Almighty, that since He created our bones from a ceramic material which is light, there is no pain and fatigue in movement. So this, you see how the mercy of Allah Almighty became a created being. So our body is designed on mercy. This is one kind of advantage of a ceramic material. The second advantage is that the ceramic material has high stiffness and high strength. And these are main requirements in load-bearing structures, because the high stiffness reduces displacements upon loading. So this is one aspect that we learn from the Quranic verse number 14 of chapter 55 of the Quran, that Allah created our body from clay like that of pottery. So if we look at the human bones, which are made of a ceramic material, and how to prove that. So here, as you can see, brothers and sisters, we have a curve which shows the following. Now the way we obtained the curve shown here is that if we prepare a cylinder of bone, for example, if we take animal bone and we take a cylindrical section, and there is a machine which can place force on this cylinder, and it can calculate the displacements, the change in dimensions of the sample. So we put a cylindrical sample in the machine applies force onto it and measures the change in length of the sample. And the curve obtained is this one right here. You see a linear curve. So this is the response of human bone when placed under compression. Let's take the same kind of the same cylinder, but from a ceramic material. So if we look here at the response curve of a ceramic material, the one shown here, this one. So here we have again a cylindrical sample of a ceramic material, like from pots, for example, again placed under compression. We can see here the response curve of this ceramic material, and glory be to Allah God Almighty, we see a perfect match between the two. So the response of a ceramic material is exactly the same as a human bone, which testifies to the truthfulness of the statement in the Quran that Allah, God, created our body from clay like that used in pottery. So we see the two response curves for human bone and ceramic material are identical. So you see, brothers and sisters, how the Quran contains knowledge of everything and optimal knowledge. So we learn that the best material for load-bearing structures is ceramic material, which has so many advantages. And knowing that our bones are loaded in compression, which increases the strength of a ceramic material. So we learn that we need to load the ceramic material in a compressive state of stress. So please, brothers and sisters, let's share this knowledge with others to see the beauty of the Quran and to come closer to the religion of Allah, which is Islam, such that people would have happiness in this life and the hereafter. And may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all.